Head coach of the Wildcats, David Braun. David, we've been doing this for a long time, the three of us. This is year 18 for us. So we started doing this when you were 22 years old.
That's awesome.
I believe. Yeah, it's true. I did the math. And in all the time we've been doing this, I've got to be honest, I really can't remember a more uncomfortable scenario than what was going on here last year with Northwestern. And you were kind of in the middle of it. And as much as I respected you and I'd gotten to know you just a little bit in that short period of time, if you would have said to me, what are the chances this guy is back here next year, with all due respect, I would have said slim and none, right? Yep. I mean, it was a really impossible situation that you found yourself in. And yet, not only are you back here, you're Big Ten Coach of the Year, you have a new long-term contract. What has this last year been like from the moment that you were here last year to where you are now?
Yeah, Dave, it's been a whirlwind. I mean, our little girl was born just a few days after we were here at Big Ten Media Days. Trying to pull everything together, get our team ready for the season. Navigating a new space, boys in new school. I mean, it's been a whirlwind, but it's also, gone from a very difficult situation in some ways as a family, moving your family from North Dakota, thinking you're taking your dream job, into a scenario where you're going, what is on the horizon for our family? What's on the horizon for our players? What does this look like? It's turned into a dream come true in a lot of ways from a standpoint. Kristen and I, our family, are so grateful to have the opportunity to lead this program moving forward. You'll get a chance here shortly to visit with our players that are here. We get an opportunity to work with some of the best young men in the country and coach these guys. What that group achieved, those 103 young men that chose to stay, what they achieved last year is something that we'll forever be really proud of. And the challenge moving forward, Dave, is, for the last 6 months, people have been telling everyone, and myself included, great job, great job. Well, you know what? We better keep that urgency and that edge and a little bit of that chip on our shoulder. The Big Ten's never been easy. It's been quite a task, quite an undertaking. It's only getting more difficult moving forward.
Well, one of the things that's really interesting was last year you inherited a staff. And so this year in the offseason, you got a chance to make that staff your own. It meant keeping some of the coaches who had been on the previous staff, and it also meant making some changes. You brought in Zach Lujan to be your offensive coordinator, someone who you had competed against. He was at South Dakota State, winning national championships. You guys won some national championships at North Dakota State. It's an area where Northwestern has really struggled here in recent years. Even in good seasons, haven't had great offenses. So give people a sense of what this offense is going to look like under Zach's tutelage.
It's going to be well thought out. It's going to be intentional in terms of creating leverage. And it's going to have a willingness to evolve. And what I mean by that is, it can be really easy for an interview for someone to come in and say, hey, here's my playbook, or this is what we do. And where I challenged Zach is I said, that's great. I saw what you did at South Dakota State. I experienced it firsthand on some rough Saturdays playing against those guys. But what they did such a great job of at South Dakota State is identifying what they were great at and playing to those strengths. And I trust and know that Zach's going to do that here at Northwestern. Identify what A.J. Henning, Bryce Kurtz, Jack Lausch or Mike Wright, whoever starts at quarterback, what these guys do well. Looking at Joe Hyman, Cam Porter, Caleb Komalafi, some of our backs, as our old line continues to develop. I fully trust that Zach is going to continue to identify what we need to do to play winning football on offense, and not be concerned about getting caught up in an ego of, we need this many yards or this many points. How do we play winning football? And that's the question we need to constantly ask ourselves in all three phases. How do we play winning complementary football? Zach's the right guy for the job. Between him, Tim McGargle, and Paul Creighton, I feel like a very lucky head coach to have those guys leading those three phases.
Most important lessons you've learned from year one that you take to year two as a head coach?
Just being true to myself. Someone asked me how I did it, and we did it. And he goes, no, Dave, but what did you do that helped lead that? I said, I harnessed some of my best qualities. I'm driven by relationships. That's just the way God made me. I leaned into that. I need to continue to lean into that. And then I let my competitive spirit truly show. I think as I got in that head coach role early, I was too concerned about this, that, and at the end of the day, what made me a good defensive coordinator is I am one competitive son of a gun like that. I'm passionate about the game of football. I think I harnessed those two qualities, Coach, I let them be on full display, and I need to make sure I continue to do that, because over the course of the last 6 months and navigating the offseason, I never could have imagined all the things that fall on your plate as a head coach, and I need to make sure that I continue to return to those qualities to make sure that I'm pouring into the people that are most important. Those are our players.
So often you hear about players that have been in a system for a second year, how things start to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
From a head coach's perspective, have things started to slow down for you?
You know what? I think there's a chance for them to slow down as we enter into fall camp. You know, until we reached this point, it had been truly a year of first. First time going through a full recruiting cycle. The class 25, I know we haven't gotten to signing day, but in terms of official visits. First time really navigating what NIL looks like at Northwestern. Now there's conversations about the changing landscape of college football. First spring ball, first time hiring first summer camp session, first time navigating, you know, we give our assistant coaches some time off in the summer. Well, that time off, as you know, Coach, looks a little bit different for a head coach.
Right.
There's different responsibilities. It's been a year of firsts. I'm excited about where we're at, but I'm excited in year 2 to continue to improve in my role.
So you're no longer obviously calling the defenses. You've got a new offensive coordinator. So when you're not doing head coaching things and you actually get a chance to go in either one of the staff rooms, where do you go? Do you learn the offense, or do you advise the defense? Which do you do more? Do you do equal?
Really try and make it equal. I think, honestly, where I can bring some of the greatest value is stepping in the offensive room. I want to make sure I'm very aware of what's going on in offense, but I also think I can bring great value to just help that room understand, you know, what I'm seeing from a defensive perspective. But also really enjoy being in that defensive staff room. I want to continue to be an asset to Tim McGarvey. I want to continue to be someone he can lean on. But I think everyone that's working with our building right now knows that I'm not there to micromanage. Tim has done a great job of taking what we built collectively last year and taking that foundation and built off of it. I'm really coming back to year 2. I'm so excited for our guys on defense to have the opportunity to work in year 2 of the system with a new play caller, with someone that even has continued to take it even a step further in terms of the evolution of our defense.
You spoke earlier about being able to evaluate the roster as a coordinator. How quickly were they able to do that, particularly on the offensive side? Did they feel comfortable? How long does that take for an offensive coordinator to be able to do?
Spring ball is critical. There's a lot of guys that weren't practicing in the spring for us that are now on our roster, whether it be guys coming back off of injuries or a couple transfers here or there. Fall camp will be critical. The fact that we double rep will be a huge asset to Zach new in his role, because he's just going to see more tape, especially on some of the young guys that are
Real
developing
quick, when
our
you
program.
say double rep, what do you mean?
Literally 2 practices going on at one time.
Okay.
I mean, instead of just one field, they'll literally be, instead of 22 guys getting better, it'll be 4 guys getting better. But I'll be honest with you, part of that is going to have to happen as the season goes along. You can think you're in the greatest shape ever, and all of a sudden you line up week 1 and you go, hold on, this isn't working. I'm excited about Zach's ability to do that, continue to be flexible, and again, find ways to play winning football.
You have a really unique situation for the next couple of years stadium-wise. Ryan Field was knocked down. It is being completely rebuilt. It's going to be an amazing facility. But there was a question as to where Northwestern would play, and the school came up with a very unusual solution over the course of the spring and summer. You're going to be in a small temporary stadium on the lakefront that's going to seat about 15,000 people. You'll play a couple games at Wrigley Field, but for all intents and purposes, your home stadium, and we're seeing pictures of it. I mean, it's going to be in as spectacular a setting as you could possibly ask for. It is going to be intimate, to say the least, in the world of college football. How do you see that situation in terms of, is it an advantage? In what ways can you make it an advantage? And how do you kind of sell it to your players?
At the end of the day, we needed to find a way, and this is no easy task, but to bridge the gap between old Ryan Field and new Ryan Field. 2026, we'll enter into the finest facility in all of college football. But how are we going to bridge that gap? I think what we landed on, and a credit to all involved in making this happen, provides the best opportunity for our players to have a true home field. It's right on campus. Provides an opportunity for our juniors and seniors to have their last home games truly be home games. Provides an opportunity for our student body to engage. We've seen what's gone on at Welsh Ryan with our basketball programs. incredible environment. We have a chance to create the football version of that on campus, and hopefully not only in 24 and 25, but that builds into things that build into the new Ryan Field. It's going to be unique. It's going to be imperfect, but it's going to be ours. It's going to be on campus. I'm excited for the Purple to show up and create a home field advantage for us on the lake.
I want to ask you one last question just about kind of the changing landscape of college sports. You talked a lot, particularly when you were introduced as the full-time head coach. When you got the job, you said, hey, Northwestern's going to have to be a great developmental program. We need to make sure that our players play their best football of their career while they're playing for Northwestern, not that we develop them for someone else. In this changing landscape with the transfer portal, NIL, all the things that are going on, what have you learned about kind of how you could make that formula happen?
You know, right now where we're at, I'm so proud of the work that people have done to bolster our NIL support, but we're nowhere close to where we need to be. I think the changing landscape actually provides us an opportunity to further support the retention of our student athletes. And at the end of the day, the number one goal we'll have in our program, and it's no different than it's been for decades, is earn a Northwestern degree. And we need to not only celebrate that, but make sure that the young men that we're recruiting, the families that we're engaged with, how we structure everything with our program comes back to that. And we talk about development. I mean, that takes investment over time. We need to find guys that want to be at Northwestern for 4 and 5 years. And then we need to make sure in terms of however this revenue share shakes out, that we are able to fully support our student athletes. To your point, make sure that Xander Mueller is playing his best college football at Northwestern. And it's the Xander Muellers, the Cam Porters, a guy like A.J. Henning that transferred in but is a cat through and through. Those are the stories that we need to continue to celebrate and what we need to build our program around.
Head coach of Northwestern, David Braun. Thanks a lot, Dave. Really
Thanks,
appreciate
Dave.
it.